Okay, we're going to talk about this stepper motor. This is the part that's going to drive the spin indexer. This, I guess we'll start with the stepper motor. It's a 23H S30 2804S. And it's mounted in this housing. Now this housing is the same center height as the stepper motor, about 2 3/4. And I did that so that the belt would be right in the middle. So what I did was I made this mount, and these little legs, at first I thought I would have some kind of bar with a clamp to hold it down, or put holes in here and clamp it down. I wasn't really too sure, but I thought, well, I'll incorporate them, the feet, that way, it'll make it wider and more sturdier, and then whenever I decide later on, I can make it work. So what I do is I made these two sides. The one side they're exactly the same, except this one side has a cutout for the belt. And I got these slots in here because that's how I finally figured out how I was going to control this thing. Now this slot and the one on the other side and these two holes up here, there's a mount that goes in here that clamps this piece down. I'll show you that later on. That's when it's actually mounted on the piece of aluminum. But anyway, this one side and this other side are exactly the same. I drilled the dowel pin holes in there because what I have a bearing in here, and let me take this apart and I'll show you what I have. So I'm going to mount this up on this little thing and see if we can't take this apart. So these are just Allen screws. Then we got to take this guy off. The lettering is still on there from the aluminum. But we'll just put that aside. I'll take this one off. We take this belt off. Now I got these belts. Got this belt, these pulleys from SPD. So anyway, the motor, I put a cut on here to make sure it's true. And actually that goes like that. But I put a bearing in here. Now the reason I did that is because the shaft on this guy, I didn't want to mount this on here. I mean, it probably would have worked, but, well, I'm sure it does work, but it just, I don't know. Well, first off, the shaft doesn't stick out far enough to where you could mount that, but then, half of the pulley would be out in the air. There's no support for it, and there's really not that much support, and I didn't want that. So what I did was I made this adapter, and that's way it's supported on this end and it's supported on this end, so that you won't get any deflection. I mean, I've seen a lot of these on the videos where they sit there and they wobble because they can't get them true, and part of the reason is because the shaft on this is so short that when you go to tighten this down, there's nothing here. So I made this, and it's just a diameter, and there's a bore in there to fit that, and I made it out of a piece of flat stock. Had a piece of flat stock that wide, and I cut it on a bandsaw, put it in a 4-jaw, turned it, flipped it over, indicated it, bored the hole so that hole is true with the shaft. Then I put a keyway in there. That's a what was that? It's a 108, I think it was. let me get my calculator out here. And yeah, 3 millimeter. So I broached that. I bored that out and broached it 3 millimeter to fit that. I've got a piece of brass in there. That's nice and snug. But the bearing, it's nothing fancy. I went down to Ace Hardware and they had one. You know, all I was concerned about was the ID. The OD, I can make that whatever I wanted. So I bored it through because you always want to be able to punch it out if something happened to it. So there's just I mean, I could have used a set screw in here, but you know, I had a lot of room, so I'd rather use a cap screw because you have more, you know, it's a lot easier to get to. And a set screw, you know, you have the little hex on the inside, as to where this is basically on the outside of the screw, and it's, if something happened to it, you can get it out. As to where with a set screw, it goes inside the hole, and they're really hard to get out if the hex happens to be over tightened. You have real problems with that. With that, see, I put a little cutout in here. That's a little clearance for this, because when this is together, the end of this pulley hits against this bearing, and that's how I set the end play on it. With these two side plates on, this is spaced so that there's a little bit of play in there, and then I adjust it This is going to be exaggerated, but anyway, see, you got that much play, and these two plates are fixed, so you can't adjust them, but you can move this little guy here, and you can move that in and out on that shaft, and then you adjust this to get just what you want on the end play. You don't need much, you want a little movement in there. You don't need it any kind of like preload on it or anything. But if you have 5 thousandths, 8 thousandths play in there, or even if you had more, it doesn't matter. The belt's going to ride on there, and it can walk a little bit. It doesn't, so long as it's not excessive. I mean, as long as this is true to your pulleys, the belt will stay true. But that's what this unit does. This is the drive unit. And I just wanted to show you that because I need to wire this up. I got it all fitted to get wired up so I can get going on this thing. And I just wanted to show that to you. So that's I think I had to bore that out too. But that's essentially what it looks like. All right. Bye.